Okay, then. Call the meeting back into order.
Thank you. Yeah.
We plan on changing the noxious weed department's stance of the last board meeting, and Leslie's got kind of a rough draft of what we're going to do and what we'd like to do.
Basically, what has transpired is there was a letter that was sent to landowners on county attorney letterhead wherein it stated that the noxious weed department was developing a new policy whereby if people weren't in compliance, then they could be fined $100 a day. If they wanted the county to come in and provide spraying, it would be at so many dollars, and then the landowner was to make a choice. We have been receiving several complaints in regards to this letter, and before any letter is sent out on county commissioner letterhead, it needs to have the approval of not only the Board of County Commissioners, but also the county attorney. And so it is my opinion that in the future, if anything of this nature is going to be sent out by the noxious weed department, that they first need to come to the county commissioners and also myself with a draft of the letter that is going to be sent, and that get prior approval of both the Board of County Commissioners and the county attorney prior to that letter being sent.
So we're going to modify that resolution.
Yeah, I move that we rescind the resolution or the motion in the last meeting of, when was that?
15th.
15th, and make a new motion that the noxious weed department needs to come to the county commissioners and county attorney, discuss the letter. We're not saying we're going to stop it, but we need to know what's going on with the noxious weed department.
The letters won't be sent out without approval of the Board of
Board.
County Commissioners and the county attorney.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're running a little behind, but I think we're ready.
Sarah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You remember Sarah Steele?
Well, I don't know if you do,
We haven't
but
met in
it's good to
person?
meet you.
Yes, you do.
Sarah Steele with Gilmore and Bell out of Wichita, and we serve as bond counsel to the county on this issue, as well as the Public Building Commission. And the first action item that you need to undertake today is to convene a public hearing. This is required by the Internal Revenue Code, where we need to hold the public hearing for the consideration of the issuance of up to $5 million of Public Building Commission revenue bonds, and to construct the improvements for the new assisted living, and if funds are available, for the renovation of the existing nursing home. So that's your first action item. Convene the public hearing, ask if there's any public comment, and if none.
Okay, we'll do that at this time. We're going to convene the public hearing for the for the purpose of,
That's okay. Issuing the bonds.
issuing the bonds.
And constructing the project.
There you go. Is there any comments from the audience? None whatsoever. Anything here?
Nope.
Okay. Step two,
So
where
you
do we
can
go?
close the public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed.
That went well.
That did go pretty well.
Usually does go that way. Your next action item is a resolution authorizing the county to enter into a base lease of the land and the existing buildings to the Public Building Commission, and then a lease back from the Public Building Commission to the county. So the county is responsible for making the payments necessary to pay off this debt. And it's my understanding the source of that comes from your 6 mills that you've been collecting for the Home for the Aged, and the collections you've made to date are being used, as well as in the future they will go to pay off these bonds. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's not actually these bonds. These are the interim short-term bonds that we're doing with 3 of the banks. First National Bank, Bank West, and Western State Bank are together buying all of these bonds, 1/3 each.
Until building completion.
Until completion, and then USDA Rural Development will come in with their permanent financing. And we'll come back and do another bond issue at that point in time.
Okay. All right. The resolution authorizing Cheyenne County, Kansas to enter into a base lease with Cheyenne County, Kansas Public Building Commission, whereby the county will lease to the Public Building Commission certain property, enter into a lease with said Public Building Commission, whereby the county will lease from the Public Building Commission certain property, including the assisted living and nursing home facilities located thereon, approving the form of said leases and authorizing the execution thereof of certain related documents.
What's the resolution number?
17-15. Don't mean to step on your toes, but Scott assigned all those.
I move we approve resolution -17. 15.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed.
Okay,
You ought to
your
write that on the top of there so you know the number.
your next action item, and then I'll pass things and have you sign everything, is the adoption of a tax and securities compliance procedure. This is a requirement of the Internal Revenue Code anytime a governing body is issuing tax-exempt bonds. And there is a form that we will file with the IRS that has 2 boxes that we need to check that say that you have written procedures in place in dealing with compliance for your tax-exempt bonds. The real key issue on these is the use of the facility. And there's really 2 ways that you can get in trouble. One is the operator of the facility is a not-for-profit 501c3. That needs to continue, or the governing body itself could hire individuals to run the facility. So it needs to be operated by either a 501c3 or government. That is going to be in place as long as these bonds are outstanding. So that's going to be a long time, 30 years for the USDA. The second aspect is the use. If you choose to change the use of this facility to either be owned by a private entity or operated as an apartment building, for example, that can affect the tax-exempt nature of it. So it's things that you can easily manage, but this procedure is necessary to document that you have written compliance procedures in place. And we've got a resolution that authorizes the adoption of those, and it's 1716.
While they're studying that, Leslie, where are we at on there was some boundary, some survey things?
Yeah, this was just brought to my attention Thursday in regards to some discrepancies in regards to the legal descriptions. What we have been able to ascertain is that there is a small strip along the southern border of the property that in fact was not conveyed to Good Sam, etc. It's a very small strip, and all it encompasses is that South Road that goes around. I mean, it's about that wide. That's at the bottom. So, spent all day Friday going through all of the surveys, conveyances. I had Sandra Braceland assist. We were pulling files that Josephine Churchill had so that we could figure out everything that was going on. But we were able to ascertain that, yes, there is in fact a little strip along the bottom. I was supposed to meet with Dave Fleming Monday afternoon, but when I came over to meet with him, he was out in the county, so I haven't been able to do that yet. But what we will be doing is there will need to be a conveyance from the county and from the city in regards to this little strip to the project. It can be easily taken care of. It's just a matter of coming up with the actual legal description and getting those deeds recorded. There's
After you and
also,
Sandra have how many hours invested, and then you say it will be easy?
once you get through all the history, Eddie,
Well, I hope that history was entertaining.
it was entertaining. It was, and I was thankful that we were able to figure out exactly.
Well-
There's no question in regards to what we need to do.
Thank you, thank you.
But yeah, we just dropped everything and did that all day Friday and got it figured out. So
Well,
we're just trying to
we-
come up with legal descriptions and get that.
It's amazing how some of this stuff can just slide for
Yeah.
decades.
Yes, and with this public hearing coming up and the resolutions and everything, that's why we just dropped everything and did it.
Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So the existing legal description in the documents, will that need to be modified, or does that include this strip?
That does not include the strip, but the building project is actually protected because everywhere that the building is going to be has been conveyed. That's why, I wasn't in crisis mode and saying we need to postpone the public hearing, etc., because where the build site is fine.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, we're looking at a resolution providing for the adoption of tax and securities compliance procedures relating to obligations issued and to be issued by Cheyenne County, Kansas.
I move we pass resolution 17-16.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Last action item is really more housekeeping, and that is that when the original Public Building Commission was created in December 2015, there were 9 members appointed, and they set the number required at 9. That coincidentally was the number that were serving on the task force. So they wanted 9 at the time. Since then, we've had 2 resignations and not a lot of interest in people joining the Task Force Public Building Commission. So we're down to 7. Yes. So the last item is a resolution amending your original resolution that created the Public Building Commission, simply to reduce the number of members on the Public Building Commission from 9 to 7. That will help them get quorum, help in future meetings, and will not affect any of the current members serving.
Okay, the resolution is amending resolution number 15-19 that created the Cheyenne County Public Building Commission, and the new resolution will be 1717.
We feel very comfortable dropping to 7. We had 9 when we were going through all that stuff, when there were all those tough decisions to make. And, because there were some hard things that had to be determined, and so we feel comfortable dropping to 7 because going forward, it's basically to approve bills and, the tough road is behind us.
Okay.
I move we go pass the resolution going from 9 to 7.
And that resolution is 17-17.
17-17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
That is the official action that needs to be taken. I have a plethora of documents to be signed.
I noticed that.
And am wondering if it would make most sense for me to return to maybe get everything signed by the full commission right now, and then I don't know if you're available at the end of the meeting.
Sure.
So you can stay on schedule.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to hand you things. I'm going to need your seal. Oh, very good. It's tiny.
I got that big one.
We'll get these out of the way right now.
And there's multiple pages, so if you just keep turning with the sign here's, that would be helpful.
There's
Two.
parts on it, both of them.
Yes, and sealed, yes.
If you have enough pages, you can see where things fall through the cracks once in a while.
Sit over here and see how much falls through the cracks.
Well, I know.
Oh, I need that.
You're on
Okay,
That's very
guard.
important, it's color
You're
coded.
the crack guard.
Scott, I lost my, here's a paper clip I can use.
Oh, you don't get to swear anyway.
No, we don't ever make the county, no, she actually will sign something at the end.
I hope so.
We try and be nice to the county attorney.
You're sign- I don't want you to be left out.
Oh, thank you, Retta.
Signing a blank paper.
Check you all and
Those are original resolutions.
I've
the
got
whole pile.
2 original resolutions, and I bet, yep, I've got yours as well. There's yours. Yours are the ones without the sign here stickies. Oh, God, I felt the flag. Okay, and you will have 3 places to sign on these.
You're getting back on board with K-Camp.
I hope so.
Good. I think that's good.
Me too.
I'm
It's
just,
kind of dangerous this
I've
morning.
been dangerous this morning. It's a funny story. I went to the rental car place. They rent cars because it's a lot cheaper than mileage. They had one car left, the Ford F-150.
Oh, you look good now.
I've never driven.
Now you want one,
I'm a
right?
city girl. And no, I don't. That's what they said. They go, you're going to want one.
The only problem with
They're big.
pickups in cities
And
is
it's only
parking.
It is.
Yes. Oh my. Well, and I told the guys at work that several of them have trucks, and I said, I've got a Fusion, Ford Fusion. This is a Ford, of course. And I said, I need that backup camera that I have on my Fusion on this truck. And they said, don't back up. Just
Don't park in a parking lot.
crazy woman,
Just
don't
don't.
back up.
When you get to 50, you'll know that real quick. Back up after 50.
So in about 10 years, she will know.
Way beyond that.
John Keller the other day, I shouldn't even tell this, he'll be mad at me. Pulled in the Quonset, parked his pickup behind the truck, got out, got in the truck, and was gonna go to town with it, and backed into his pickup.
Either a case of too many vehicles.
Just that quick.
He said, I was gonna take the, I said, parked behind it, got in, and backed into it, right in the building.
What time?
And then you had to go to the house and explain that.
11:30.
Well, 11:15, 11:30, yeah, that was fine.
Okay, I'll be here.
Okay.
Good
We usually
excuse.
stay pretty close.
Good excuse to get away from the bankers.
Now, you're the one that wanted to get them together. And now you're trying to get away from them.
Oh, I want them just for short term. One more. It's easier to deal with them in a bunch than individually, don't you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, probably. But not in a conference call bunch.
And, I'm sorry. And would it work for you also to stay with the chairman? Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's all the official action that you need, and you have authorized the chairman to sign everything else, so you're off the hook.
Thank
Before
you.
we leave, sir, I just want to mention one thing. I want to appreciate Leslie coming in here kind of in the middle of this whole process and working through it, because these were a lot of documents. I can tell you this, Sarah's working for you. I'm kind of one of these guys, let's go ahead and get the job done, and every time we thought we was ready, she said, yes, but you've got to do this, this, and this, and I can tell you, and we was not always kind to her on the phone, because we felt like we was overdoing all this. I don't think there's anything that can go wrong with these documents, I guarantee you.
I
So I
hope
do
so.
appreciate your efforts in keeping us in line.
I'm banking on that fact.
You know, I guarantee you, it was not a lack of effort on hers.
I would echo that I really appreciate Leslie coming in at the 11th hour and jumping right in. So.
It's been a learning experience, but a joy to work with you, truly.
Good.
Don't brag on her too much.
All right, so
Ryder?
we don't need the 10 o'clock. So that'll get you back on.
Cool. Thank you.
So thank you for your time.
All right. Anything else for FK Camp?
We're gonna walk out.
Is that who's in the back?
I'm thinking it is. Okay, next on the agenda is K-Camp, David Luke and Carl Hyman.
Thank you.
I'll be back at 9:45.
All right, Jeff.
Dwayne, she's got those documents out here.
Okay.
I'm glad we connected. There was a lot of changes.
Sorry I was late.
Not a problem.
Good morning.
Good morning, I'm Carl Lyman, I'm at K-Work. Good to see you again, Senator. Hi. You too.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Chair gets away from me. How are you this morning?
Thanks for making time for us this morning. Boy, you say insurance and everybody clears out of the room. It's a sexy topic, isn't it? Oh, that's mine. I can wait. Good job. Pass it on to Scott. There you go.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Well, I guess just by way of background, we had bid the county's insurance, I think, in 14 to renew January 1, 15, and you all moved from the commercial market over to K-Camp. We're with us for NK Work, and we're with us for 2 years, and then last year rebid and went back to the commercial insurer. So that's kind of the history. What I thought I would do is just kind of give a background of pooling and K-Camp in particular, and then talk a little bit about our program and what we offer, and then Carl can do the same with K-Work. I guess we're curious as to what's driving the decision to rebid again. Is there some issues with claims or cost or service, or what is it that I guess is driving the decision?
And I'm not sure I can answer that, but I don't know if there was a driving force. All those decisions were made by a previous board.
Yep.
Other than that.
Yeah.
So we were just curious to get a little bit of comparison, and we
Sure.
really don't know the history of why it changed or how that was even initiated. Other than cost, it sounds like.
Okay. That's helpful. I appreciate that. Yeah. So let's see. When we bid the first time, we think we made a lot of enhancements to the program. We significantly increased your liability limits for claims outside the Tort Claims Act. I think you were at $1 million. We raised that to $3 million. We raised your crime coverage from couldn't have been more than $150,000 in coverage. Raised that to $1 million. We added cyber liability coverage to the program, and then we lowered your program deductibles significantly. And then all of that, and then added the risk management services, which I'll talk about. Get a $2,000 grant program. You get $2,000 back every year. Attorney assist and a number of risk management services. And we did all of that while lowering your premiums. I wasn't here last year when it was rebid, so I didn't see a detailed proposal from the commercial market, so I couldn't really do a line by line. I do know you increased your deductibles back up when you went with the commercial market again. But again, I don't have a side-by-side comparison, so I can't really comment. Just by way of, again, history of pooling, K-Camp was started in 1991 through the Kansas Association of Counties. Like most pools around the country, it started because the commercial market was dramatically increasing rates on public entities. And there are stories from county commissioners back in that time period, some who are still around, who said, their rates were going up 300%, and they got the notice, a week before renewal, or they got non-renewed by their carrier. And so these counties were left in a situation, well, what do we do? How do we respond to this? The insurance department sort of helped bail them out by negotiating something with commercial carriers, but that was sort of a Band-Aid. And what resulted was them banding together and forming a pool. So we are really what is called group self-insurance. We're not an insurance company. The members sign an interlocal agreement, kind of like you would for recycling or any other type of service. You form that organization through the interlocal, and you pay your money in. From that, we pay out claims and provide services. Most public entities around the country now are in pools. They started really kind of in the late 70s, and by the early 90s, when K-Camp and K-Work were formed, most pools, again, most public entities had already joined a pool or formed a pool. So that's school districts, counties, cities, special districts. I think there's over 46,000 public entities in a pool today. Nationwide. Probably 85% of public entities are in one form pool of another. Typically, it's the larger entities that don't pool. You know, a Johnson County, for example, is going to self-insure and buy their own excess. They don't really need to join with other counties because of their size. So that's kind of how we operate. I said we're not an insurance company, but we are regulated by the Kansas Insurance Department. Every state's different, but Kansas decided to have pools regulated. We report our financials to them on a quarterly basis, and they can audit us at their discretion if they have any concerns. So we've been in operation over 26 years. We've grown from about 33 members to we have 66 of the 105 counties today. We have expanded into cities. We just added our first 3 cities this year, and the city of Fort Scott being the most recent addition as of July 1. We've grown to over 20 million in member fund balance or surplus, so very strong financially. Regulators use a series of financial ratios to evaluate the solvency of pools or insurance companies. K-Camp far surpasses those ratios. And just by way of example, what I mean by that, if you look at slides 12 and 13, if you look at those dark blue lines at the bottom, that's the level of risk K-Camp retains. So on the property side, we retain the first $250,000 of a loss. On the liability, the first $500,000 of a loss. Above that, we're buying reinsurance. We're transferring a loss above that layer to a reinsurance company. That's no different than what the commercial market does. It's just we're transparent about it because you own us. You know, we're member owned, so we disclose exactly how our financial structure works. So we have to fund what our actuary projects our losses to be in those dark blue layers. We fund it very conservatively, and the evidence of that is on the next slide. You can see the growth in surplus to over 20 million. So one of the ratios that regulators will use, they'll say, well, what if you had 10 limit losses on the property side? Let's say you had 10 tornadoes come through Kansas in a spring and summer period. You would have a $2.5 million loss. So they would want to see, and that is the ratio, 10 to 1. They would want to see $2.5 million in surplus. We have 20 million. We have 10 times what the minimum is. So the board really wasn't they look at those ratios every year for themselves to decide, do we have enough surplus? Do we need to pad that a little bit? But it's been years now where the board's saying, look, we're far surpassing those. At some point, we need to decide when do we start returning money back to the members. And so we actually had an actuarial consultant come in last year and do what's called dynamic capital modeling, where they stress test our balance sheets and figure out what's a target net asset range. And they look at everything from, what if the actuary was way off in their loss projection, even though they've been doing it 25 years, and it looks like they've been doing pretty good. But let's say losses just got really bad and they were way under. And let's say in those same years your reinsurer became insolvent. They have 50 million in surplus, but let's just say they went under those same years you had these really bad losses. So now K-Camp's on the hook all the way up to the top. And let's say in those same years, your investment portfolio, even though you're in government-backed securities, as I'm sure the county is, let's say your investment portfolio tanks. How much surplus do you need to absorb all of that and not have to increase rates on the members? And above that amount, we think you can start paying back dividends. And so we declared our first ever dividend. If you go to slide 17, we've declared beyond 18, we declared our first ever dividend this last year. I'm going out to all our counties this year and paying out those dividends. Over $600,000 is being paid back to our members this year. So K-Camp's in a very healthy financial position. The other big advantage of pooling, and I think probably the biggest reason for our growth, is rate stability. This is what really differentiates us from the commercial market. Commercial market is very reactive. So when you have that bad loss year, it's probably how you got to, I think you're at a $5,000 deductible for property and $10,000 for wind and hail. K-Camp's still at $500. We don't react when a county has a huge loss. Cheyenne County had a $60,000, I think, hail loss the second year you were in our program. When we came to rebid, your rates did not go up. When I'm presenting these dividend checks, I show the members their loss ratios, and they're going like this, right? They'll have 2 or 3 good years, then it spikes. 2 or 3 good years, spikes. Their rates are exactly like you see on slides 15 and 16, generally coming down or remaining flat from year to year. So there's that predictability. And how is that possible? Because we take a very much a risk-sharing approach with our funding. So what that means is Cheyenne County might have 2 or 3 years of good losses, and your rates really didn't come down significantly. Why? Because you're absorbing losses for that other members had, knowing that the next 2 or 3 years, it might be you that gets hit, and the other members are going to absorb that for you. So you don't see the huge decreases, but you also don't see the huge spikes in premium. And you don't get the game of we're going to raise your deductible to also collect back our losses. So it's rate stability, I think, that our members really appreciate. Along those lines, we have a 3-year rate stabilization program. So what that means is they instituted it in 2012, renewed it in 2015. They'll renew it again probably this year, starting in January 1 of 18, and it's at the member's option. You can commit to a 3-year period of participation. You get a one-time contribution credit. The average credit was $8,500 in 2015. And then you get a rate cap over that 3-year period. And the worst end of that would be if you have loss ratio above 65%, we can't increase rates more than 5%. So you think about that, we have loss ratios in some cases of 800%. So meaning we paid out 8 times what we collected in premium, and we couldn't raise the rate more than 5% if they were in that program. So it's stabilized rate, I think, is really the hallmark of the program. On the services side, by the way, in terms of coverage, because we're member-owned and member-driven, we have a 7-member board of trustees. Currently, it's 3 clerks, 3 commissioners, and a sheriff on that board. The members are driving the coverage and service. So what does that mean? The coverage is very tailored for counties. It's remarkable. So, for example, we add coverages that aren't really even liability coverages. For example, if your sheriff's department, let's say there's a scenario where and this happens more frequently than we care to think, but let's say KHP responds to an incident, sheriff also responds, maybe the city also responds. Who takes that person who puts them in custody and takes them to the hospital is going to be who's responsible for the health care costs. So if they were pursuing that person and that person got injured in the incident, then what happens is there's a lot of finger pointing. Well, you had him in custody. We don't want to be responsible for the health care. You had him in custody. And so we provide $25,000 of defense costs for that to get sorted out. And we've even had members being able to get out of having to pay those costs because we were able to provide that defense. That's not a liability claim, but we provide that coverage. The commercial market doesn't provide coverage for injunctive relief on claims. So if there's no monetary demand, they're just saying, hey, we want specific performance. We want you to do X, Y, and Z. Insurance carriers say, no, we don't cover that. We cover monetary demands. K-Camp provides up to $25,000 for that. So there's just very unique features of our coverage that are really tailored for our members. Another feature is we don't charge when you add vehicles and equipment during the year. There's no mid-year charge for that. So as you're dropping off the value of old vehicles, you're adding new, your costs really are going up. But in that first year, that's not getting charged to you. We don't make the clerk go back and do an audit of when did you add, let's collect that additional premium. We don't mess with that. We just get it on the renewal. So that's another nice feature for our counties. The other thing that we've noticed, if you're still with EMC, they don't cover older vehicles. So we just rolled a tractor for one county. This happens all the time. We just rolled a tractor, or one of our counties rolled a tractor that was 1980s tractor. It's 30 years old. That wouldn't even be covered by a commercial carrier because they don't see any value in it. We know there's value to you in that. So we actually paid $10,000 out on that claim. That's the ACV value we had on that. So typically if you get a proposal from us, one of the things you need to look at to make apples to apples is what values are they using? Because not only is our property rate probably lower and our deductible lower, but we're covering a lot more in terms of values on your equipment and your vehicles. And then lastly, on services. Again, this is where I think pools are just completely different from commercial insurance. Because we know our counties can't hire a risk manager. They don't have that kind of money. So we try to fill that breach and provide the services you need to kind of better manage your risk, reduce your losses, keep your contributions low. We have online university, hundreds of courses in fire, police, employment practices. Your employees can take right at their road and bridge. Your employees can take right at their desk, print out certificates of completion, put it in the employment file. We have model law enforcement policies and procedures, a model employee handbook that's kept current, that's customizable, so you can, if you're updating your handbook, you can use that as a point of reference. We've even developed more specific procedures than the employee handbook. So, for example, a few of our counties started requesting, we need to know which employees we can drug test. We need to know what type of drug testing we can do, at time of hire, random, which ones can have which type of testing. We developed a procedure for that that's applicable for all our counties. So it's those kinds of resources that are available to you. We do contract reviews, so if you have lease, people are using county facilities, or there's a lease agreement that needs to be reviewed for indemnity and insurance requirements, we provide that service. And the last one I'll mention is our legal-based jail guidelines. It's a software program. We teamed up with the Kansas Sheriff's Association and the National Institute of Jail Operations to pay the implementation fee for a software program the National Institute developed. The sheriffs can access that. If an inmate comes to them and says, I constitutional right to take a shower every day or to have a kosher meal, they can actually look that up in the system, get the legal citation, and have the answer. And county councils can use it. The sheriff's department can use it. EMC was asked to come to the table on that and partner as well, and they declined. And I think that's an example of the difference, that we're committed to helping our members really manage their risks more effectively. We also have tuition reimbursement programs. So for road, you send your road and bridge folks to Road Scholar program, we reimburse for that. I think it's $50 per class. If your sheriff's department sends folks for continuing ed, up to $1,000 per year for that. And then we have the risk avoidance grant. So every year, if you have something that will help you reduce property liability losses, might be slip-resistant coating for stairs, might be body cameras for the sheriffs, grill guards for vehicles, that'll help you mitigate that loss, up to $2,000 each year is given back to you for those purposes. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I would say if you are interested in getting a proposal from us, you probably want to start early, maybe get proposals in certainly by the end of October, not later than that. And that gives you time to really evaluate what you're getting in and decide what you want to do. So, any questions?
One, does all the monies stay inside the state of Kansas?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part. So we have like attorney assist. We contract with Folston Sifkin, which is the largest law firm in Kansas. They're in Wichita and Kansas City,
Okay.
Kansas, not Kansas City, Missouri. We have, all of our money is invested by Country Club Bank. We have, trying to think what else. We don't work through agents, so we write direct with our members. So the money comes into us. All our employees are in Kansas. So it's, this is really a Kansas enterprise. There are competitors that are jumping state lines to come into Kansas, but we're sort of just a Kansas pool, and that's all we plan to be. So,
Have you seen some growth in counties and municipalities joining?
in our membership? Yeah. So we, as I said, I think had 33 initially. We're up to 66. Since I joined K-Camp in January 1 of 14, we've added 6 counties. We're bidding, I think, 5 more this fall. So there's a lot of interest and, a lot of growth. I don't think we've had a dip in our membership in quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been pretty consistent growth. I think that there's one table in there that shows
Oh, yeah, there it is.
membership. So you can see back in 2012, that's the total membership. It's not county. So we had total membership of 69 in 2012. We're up to 87 members today. And you can see just the consistent upward tick.
Well, I think we'd be interested in a proposal from you.
Okay.
We're the sister pool. Actually, K-Camp was put together in 91, K-Work in 92. K-Camp over here is one of the original old property casualty pools. There's a lot of work comp pools out there. There's very few property and casualty pools. So to give you a little rundown here on the K-Work side, we have to follow statutory requirements for workers' compensation, so it's pretty same for anybody that's doing work comp coverages for you. Just a letter of greeting. This is our board of trustees. We have three clerks and 4 commissioners. And what we've done is you see the map on the bottom. The darker counties are our trustee counties. And what we've done to pass, and we finally put it in our bylaws, was we have a representative on the board from each one of the 6 road districts. And then one at large, which is Michelle Garrett, who's the county clerk out of Morris County. That way, any meeting that you're going to, your local meetings here, you'll have a trustee there available to discuss the situation with. Next page is coverages. We normally do $1 million employer liability. That's to go right along with the K-Camp, $1 million for their liability. We can do 500, but that's normally what we do. Safety National is our excess carrier, and we're a little higher than K-Camp, and which gone up. We've had excess layers as low as $250,000. When 9/11 hit, they just started climbing right on up. So our excess limit goes to $750,000. Under B here, just some stipulations. Independent contractors and subcontractors, you want to get certificates of insurance for all those people, because under work comp, if they're doing things for you here and you get injured and they don't have their own coverage, you automatically pick up that coverage for them. So that we require that you get certificates for anybody doing independent labor for you. We have loss control people. You have a person up here that's designated to do loss control for you, Brandon Mann. Does the risk, does all the kinds of safety classes for you. I do part of them. I've got safety classes to do next week over network. And it gets into payrolls and how we do audits. We also file forms for you, and you probably already have them filed for community service people. And any volunteers that you may have working for the county would automatically come under your policy. Next page is our Safety National Public Entity Program. This is our excess carrier, been around for many, many years and an excellent operation. Behind that's our investment committee. Investments are reviewed monthly and then quarterly extensively. And this is our committee for our investments. And I've given you the most current approved financials for you, and as you can see, our total fund balance is $13,700,000 with total liabilities and fund balance of $25,800,000. And just expenses on the next page for you to kind of give an idea of what how our expenses run. We've got a changeover in our claims. We didn't get a change in our claims people. We get a changeover in the operation. TriStar has taken over our claims operation. It'll still be a Kansas-based operation, but we're dealing with a guy in Denver right now. But this is a nationally known organization, got a really good background, good history, been around since 1987. Excellent operation. David run into him out in California even. We do several different lines for us, and as you can see, the main office did have a Kansas operation. We provide loss control services. We do safety meetings. In fact, when you were in the pool a couple years ago, I got your EMS director set up so he could do CEVO classes for his people, which is coaching emergency vehicle operators. It's a National Safety Council class. Got him approved to do that. So we've done safety meetings here. Even Jeff Spanesteel, who's their loss control, their adjuster out of K-Camp, come up and did a liability class for the Road and Bridge Department, when you remember. We have the Local GovU, which is our online classes, just like K-Camp does. We do more safety down those lines for ours. Safety and health is most of ours, where theirs is liability and management. We do have some supervisory classes in there, but most of ours is safety and health. We maintain a video library for training, safety training. All you have to do is call in and say, I'd like to borrow this video. We'll send it out to them. We do OSHA-style inspections. Being a governmental entity in Kansas, you're not under OSHA. You're under the Department of Labor. But for the Department of Labor to have their own organization, they have to have rules as good as, if not better than OSHA. So what they do, they just adopted the OSHA rules. Okay. Since I've been doing this, OSHA's tried 3 times to take over the inspections here in Kansas. 3 times. Hadn't made it yet. At the bottom here, just gives you some classes. We do defensive driving classes for everybody in the county. No cost to the county whatsoever. And anybody that operates a vehicle for the county should do a defensive driving class. And we do them about every 2 years. I do CEVO classes, ambulance and fire. Like I mentioned earlier, I have an ambulance class to do over in Atwood in a couple weeks. I do work zone safety. We all do, as far as safety for the workers out there. We do flaggers classes to get anybody that's flagging certified to flag. Under the new MUTCD, anybody that flags is supposed to be certified to flag. It has a training class. Do pit coverages, power industrial truck training, which is your forklifts, which OSHA requires that anybody operates a forklift to be certified. And then I do a skid steer loader class. This is our current membership. Behind that, we have really 73 counties and several other entities, including some water districts. And we do the Northwest Regional Recycling down in Colby. Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority there in Topeka, which is part of Shawnee County. And we've got 2 hospitals. We can't, David's mentioned to you that he's doing cities. We don't do cities. There's another separate pool for cities called KMIT, Kansas Municipal Insurance Trust. And of course, the back page gives you another map of current membership. And we've always had good representation out here in this section out here.
Well, sounds like there's lots and lots of resources that would be invaluable.
Little article for you on pooling. Put together by the Pennsylvania Association.
Thank you.
You're one of the council.
Thank you.
Questions? Ours does the same. Between David's GovU and my GovU, they're exactly the same. They're separate. We've got them separated, but they're, as far as how they operate, exactly the same. And both of these will give, like your law enforcement, help them get their 40 hours of training.
That's
And
one thing
they're-
that we really need out here, not only for law enforcement, but for EMS. We have a tough time keeping recertification hours.
Yes,
The travel time to Hayes or Salina,
yeah, exactly.
and the loss of manpower for those travel times is starting to eat us up, so that would be a benefit. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for all your information.
You bet.
When did you say you would need the board to?
Well, let's see, I mean, our process would be to just send you an email and say, here's our coverage questionnaire. We need loss data, and then just a copy of your policies so we can see your schedules, what vehicles we're talking about, equipment, that kind of thing. That's the information we'll need from you. Once you give that to me, I mean, it's a week to 2 to just turn that around.
Well,
But
the proposal, when do we need to?
I was saying
End
end
of
of
October?
I was saying end of October, just so you have the time to evaluate it. You may not want to make a decision that day, right? And so you want to give yourself some time. Then you have the annual KAC annual meeting. You've got holidays come in there, and so I just thought to give yourselves enough time.
KAC is coming up. And
Yeah.
We do the annual meeting at KAC.
Yeah, I just got that information. Or had it here earlier.
Yeah, so, I don't know, you probably meet on the 31st of October. That might be a good day to request all proposals be in. And
Sounds very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That was
Send your request for what we need. Pretty much the same, said we need to establish payrolls, that everybody's working off the same payrolls. The key with work comp is you have to have a starting point, and the starting point is classifications and payrolls for those classifications.
all right. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
thanks for your
That was
time.
a lot of information.
Good to see you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you again. Whoops.
Where's my registration card? Okay, we could take a 5-minute break.
Before you do that, do you want to get an ad put in the paper for this to get proposals by?
For the insurance part. Yeah.
Yeah, said he was, yeah.
That'd be good. Okay. Either October 31st or your first meeting in November.
Okay,
Because a lot of commercial companies don't put out their renewal bids until 45 to 60 days out.
before it would take effect.
Yeah, so no later than November 15th would be just right, so
All right.
October 31st would work. So, we can put a bid together. K-Camp and K-Work, it's a good pool, don't get me wrong on it. It's just whether you want to try to do stuff locally or you